The story of Saint Francis Xavier begins on April 7, 1506, in the ancient castle of Xavier in Navarre, Spain. Born into a noble family, Francis enjoyed privilege, education, and comfort. Yet beneath his bright mind and youthful charm, God was preparing him for a mission that would change the world. At the age of 19, Francis traveled to Paris, the intellectual capital of Europe. He was confident, ambitious, and determined to make a name for himself. His dream was not holiness, it was success. But in Paris, he met a man who would transform his life forever. Ignatius of Loyola. Ignatius saw greatness in Francis and often repeated the words that struck his heart. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? At first, Francis resisted, but grace is patient. Slowly, Ignatius's spiritual influence awakened Francis's soul. He underwent a profound conversion, and with 5 companions made vows at Montmartre. Together they formed the first core of what would become the Society of Jesus, the Jesuit. In 1537, Saint Francis Xavier was ordained a priest and was ready for mission. But no one expected what came next. In 1540, King John III of Portugal begged the Jesuits to send missionaries to the distant lands of the East. Ignatius had chosen another priest for the mission, but when he fell ill, he turned to Francis and simply said, "Go, Francis. Set the world on fire." And Francis obeyed. On April 7, 1541, his 35th birthday, he boarded a ship for India. The voyage took 13 months, filled with storm, sickness, and hardship. But Francis did not complain. He cared for the sick, preached to sailors, and became a beacon of hope in the darkness. When he arrived in Goa in 1542, he faced a shocking reality. Abandoned children, enslaved people, and Christians who had forgotten the faith. Francis walked through the streets, ringing a little bell, calling people to prayer, gathering children to teach them the catechism. He lived among the poor, slept little, ate simply, and poured out his life for. Soon he traveled beyond Goa, to the Pearl Fishery Coast, where thousands of fishermen begged for baptism. Then he journeyed to Malaysia, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. He crossed jungles, mountains, seas, and lands unknown to Europeans. He learned languages, composed simple catechisms, and baptized entire villages. But his greatest longing was Japan. In 1549, after an incredibly dangerous voyage, he arrived in Kagoshima. The Japanese were intelligent, philosophical, and curious. Francis adapted, dressed modestly, learned their customs, and preached with gentleness and scholarship. Many people embraced Christianity, and Francis wrote letters filled with wonder at the dignity and beauty of the Japanese people. Yet even Japan was not the end. Francis dreamed of reaching China, the heart of Asian culture. In 1552, he set out for the Chinese Empire, but he never reached the mainland. While waiting on the island of Shangchuan, exhausted from years of missionary labor, he fell gravely. On December 3, 1552, at the age of 46, Francis Xavier died alone on the shore, whispering the name of Jesus.